teaching lecturer at the Bachelor of Applied Automation Engineering Technology. She studied basic engineering at the Bandung Institute of Technology and continued her master in instrument and control at the Bandung Institute of Technology. Samuel.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Honored to be your moderator for these sessions. We are thrilled from different parts of the world. And then Sudan and etc. How are you today? This seminar is fantastic opportunity to expand our knowledge, and we all know the global energy landscape is rapidly in renewable energy source and the integrations of sustainable practice. We listen into the challenge and opportunities that come with more sustainable future. And to lead ATB, and let me introduce our speaker, Prof. Prof. Ari. I'm sorry. Okay. Prof. Ari has been a professor at the
Recording in
2010
progress.
and 2013. Prof. Ari earned a PhD in cryogenic engineering from the University of Southampton, UK in 1992, and he also get the Master Science in Cryogenics in University of Southampton, and he also got a Bachelor Science in Mechanical Engineering Institute Teknologi Bandung. Prof. Ari has also been an advisor for the ozone unit of the Indonesian Ministry of Environment and Forestry since 2001, implementing the CFC and HCFC phase-out program in Indonesia. Prof. Ari was also member and served as the president-elect of the ASRE Indonesia, and he has conducted several feasibility studies on waste-to-energy plants in Bandung, in Babakan Ciparai, in Jakarta, in Palembang. Prof. Ari was also involved in studies on co-firing hydrogen and natural gas pool at PLTD Pesanggerahan, at PLTD Pesanggaran, and co-firing biomass and coal at PLTU Suralaya and PLTU Pelabuhan Ratu. We are truly fortunate to have an expert with us today to share the insight on the energy transition. Without further ado, please Prof. Ari to present the topic. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Bu Mega. Good morning, all. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So please allow me to share my presentation. Firstly, I would like to say thank you to the organizing committee, Bu Mega, especially to invite me to this very important and very interesting event, summer course, which is the forum that we can share many information and pursuing collaboration for future network. So actually, my research group now changed the name, not longer energy conversion. It becomes Thermal Science and Engineering Research Group, Faculty of Mechanical and Aerospace Engineering. And I'm no longer the head, I'm the member. But now I'm appointed as a head of Research Center for New and Renewable Energy in ITB. So my topic is actually it's not a specific topic actually. It's about some information on what we are doing, especially in research in Thermal Science and Engineering Research Group and also in Research Center for New and Renewable Energy. Yeah. So the content, the first is definition. I would like to emphasize the difference between renewable energy and sustainable energy. It's almost the same, but there is some aspect which make their difference. And then, yeah, all the research is actually have a background. This is the background of our research, is the Indonesian government policy on the climate change and the mitigation action plan that's already stated in several documents that already issued by the Indonesian government. We look a little brief about this Indonesian government policy on climate change and the transition energy. And then the third part, I would like to share information what is the challenge in implementing the new and renewable and in power generation in Indonesia. And then in between of this explanation, I will show some our research activity in ITB, especially in the Research Center for New and Renewable Energy and Thermal Science and Engineering Research Center. Yeah. And the last part in my presentation is our concept. Yeah, it's Renewable Energy Research Center concept on the green project in Indonesia. Okay, first, let us see the definition and the difference between renewable energy and sustainable energy. Renewable energy is only talking about energy resources, yeah, which is not used up or depleted in our lifetimes. For example, we have solar power, yeah, okay, and then hydropower. That's an example of the renewable energy, which is not used up or depleted in our lifetimes. But sometimes the oil people, the people that work with and rely on oil as energy sources, they said oil also renewable energy because it's already very long time and never used up, yeah, during several lifetime of several generations. Once, maybe 15 years ago, there's a professor from University of Illinois at Chicago. His name is Mansouri, Professor Mansouri. He asked us, the researchers and students in ITB during the visiting lecture, he said, do you know where is the oil come from? Everybody agreed that the oil is come from the fossil. Yeah. So he asked us to calculate how much is the volume of the fossil during the Earth lifetime. Yeah, or everybody start to discuss and start to make some simple calculation and some make some more complicated calculation. At the end, everybody agree that the fossil volume is 7 million barrel. Yeah, it's using oil volume. Yeah, 7 million barrel. And do you know what is 7 million barrel? 7 million barrel is oil in global oil production in one day. Yes, so if it's not renewable, then the oil will be finished within one day. Suppose we miss 1,000%, yeah, it will finish in 1,000 days, yeah. But as we know that the oil is not used up yet, maybe within 100 years to come, it still exists. So he said that oil is also renewable energy because it's not used up in our lifetime. But is it environmental friendly? Of course not. Everybody agree because if we use oil, then it will emit CO2. Yeah, with CO2 will increase the atmosphere temperature, the earth temperature, and the impact is we have climate change. Yeah, that's why the oil may be renewable, but it's not sustainable energy. Yeah, sustainable energy is referred to similar to renewable energy, but it has no impact on the environmental, not only on its utilization. Yeah, it's not, but also the way we use it. It should be not in harm to the environment. It's include the energy conservation. Yeah. For example, if we use renewable energies as solar electricity, and we keep the energy to the battery, and the battery used in electrical vehicle, for example, we have to have efficient electric vehicle. We have to have efficient solar panel and so on. So it's include efficiency, energy conservation, and so on. Yeah. So if the sustainable energy resources will never depleted during our lifetime, and at the same time do not harm to our environment. Yeah, that's the difference. What I think the difference between renewable and sustainable energy. Yeah, so this is an example of sustainable energy system network or sustainable energy city, for example. Yeah, a city that is sustainable in energy should have first non or low carbon fuel production. What is low carbon or non-fuel fuel production? It's like hydrogen. Yeah, we can use hydrogen as a fuel. Ammonia, for example, do not contain any carbon. We can use ammonia as a fuel. Yeah. And what I think, and we think in the center, hydrogen and ammonia is our green energy, future green energy. Yeah. We'll explain later on a little bit more about hydrogen and ammonia. Of course, we have to have renewable energy power generation like solar, wind, yeah, hydropower, and so on. And for the existing power plant in Indonesia, all of the power plant is use coal, yeah, coal power plant. Yeah, some we have hydro, some we have solar, yeah, but the most power generation use coal as a fuel, yeah. So this has to be changed also. Yeah, Indonesia, the government and PLN, our electricity state company, already committed to retire all its coal power plant before 2060. Yeah, so we have to change the existing power plant transition for renewable energy integration. What this means is, yeah, non-carbon fuel thermal conversion. For example, biomass. Carbon, yeah, because during the lifetime, the in the biomass, then the CO2 will be emitted. Yeah, but the emission is not originally come from the earth. somewhere it's already generally come from CO2 that's already absorbed, yeah, before during the lifetime of the wood. So it's considered to be carbon neutral, yeah. Although oil also can be considered like that, but for the moment, people accept biomass as a carbon neutral fuel resources. So that's why when we change the coal with the biomass like the wood or palm oil waste, for example, yeah, we can reduce the CO2, yeah, because we do not calculate the emission from the biomass. It's considered to be zero. Okay, and then uh, we also try to reduce the CO2 emission from the fossil fuel by carbon offset. For example, carbon offset is actually trading, yeah. So if we emit a certain amount of CO2, we can compensate with carbon trade in another sector, yeah. But the latest technology now that we develop and it start to be accepted by the industry and also by the environmental bodies is carbon capture and storage. Yeah, so we capture the CO2, so it do not emit to the atmosphere. We capture and we re-inject it into the earth or absorb in a media like ocean or other media. Yeah, it's not maybe sometime in 15 year or 100 year we have quite a lot CO2 resources. Yeah, and there is a technology that can be converted CO2 into fuel. Yeah, also maybe in 100 years to come, we can use CO2 as fuel also. Yeah, we convert it into something else, but we don't know yet. Yeah. So that's why the concept of carbon capture. Yeah, and also some effort when we extract oil from the earth, we remain the CO2 inside, and the empty rock that is originally filled with oil can be filled with CO2. Yeah, so the CO2 emission from power plant, from the transportation or others can be injected to this hollow earth. Yeah, that is previously occupied by the oil. So that is what I mean, the carbon offset and carbon capture and storage. Yeah. Yeah. Now we have several centers in ITB doing with the carbon capture and storage research. Okay, so this is the background of energy transition and all the renewable energy research in Indonesia, actually, yeah, and at least in ITB. So Indonesia government already signed the Paris Agreement. Yeah, if we sign, then it's legally binding. We have to commit it to what we have already signed. Yeah, what is the commitment of Indonesian government? It is stated in the first national determined contribution. Yeah, this is a document stated the contribution of Indonesia in reducing the CO2. Yeah, we promise that we can reduce the CO2 emission by 29% in 2030 from the emission in 2010. That the scenario that called CM1. CM means countermeasure, unconditional mitigation scenarios. Unconditional means without helping with other country. It's solely of the effort of Indonesian government. But if with the help of international, for example, there is a grant or provide some money from other country, and we can commit to 41% of reduction CO2 from the baseline. The baseline, the emission of CO2 in 2010. That is the commitment of Indonesian government, and it's already stated in the first national determined contribution. Yeah. Now we are developing the second national determined contribution. It should be submitted in 2025. If we do not produce this document, it means that Indonesians do not comply with the Paris Agreement. Yeah, and then there's enhanced, national determined contribution, more reduction. And then, Indonesia already very ambitiously stated that we will have net zero emission in 2060 or sooner. And we also have a long-term strategy, how to reduce this one, how to reduce the CO2 emission. It is stated in document what we call long-term strategy for low carbon and climate resilience. But it's all document. It's all document. We have to implement it. But while we implement it, we need money. And we don't know yet where the money comes from. But once again, this is commitment that we have to realize. We have to implement it. So we have 5 sector actually. 5 sector that has to be reduced the emission. The first sector is energy. The energy mean coal. The source of energy like coal, oil, gas. We have to reduce that one. The high global warming potential is 24 times. We not manage the waste and we left in the open dumping like and we already committed to reduce that one. And product use, it's like transportation and utilization of energy industry, like in a chemical process, in oil refinery, and so on. We also committed to reduce that one. And the fourth is in the agriculture. We have to manage the agricultural waste. We have to manage how to reduce the CO2 emission in the poultry, and many aspects of agriculture. They already have the strategy, but it has to be implemented. It's very not easy to be implemented. The fifth factor is forest and other land use. Forest mean like forest restoration, keeping the high carbon capture area, and so on. So we already have a plan here, decreasing how much we have decreasing in CM1, CM2. This is the business as usual. And if we reduce in 2030, we have to reduce about 314, for example, in energy. That's quite a lot. So based on this plan, it is targeted in 2025, which is next year. The energy resources of Indonesia or energy primary Indonesia will use 23% of renewable energy. We still use coal 30%. And the fact is because 2025 is next year, in fact, this year we only achieve around 70%, 17%, not even 20%. So we have to revise our target energy mix. 23% is quite a lot. Quite a lot, 23%, especially if you extrapolate it into 2060. It's about 232 gigawatt. We have to provide the need of energy from renewable energy resources. So how about the renewable energy in Indonesia? Yes, we have. We have solar power, especially, for example, in Cirata, West Java. It's about 145 megawatt capacity, but we don't know the performance yet. We don't receive, we haven't received the actual power generated for this plant. It's still secret. Okay. We have wind power also in Sulawesi, so Sulawesi and Jeneponto, 74 megawatt wind power. We have many hydropower, and the latest is 900 megawatt. It is still planned, Kayan Hydropower in North Kalimantan. It is to serve our new capital, Nusantara, yeah. And we have the second largest country that have geothermal energy resources. The new one, the latest development is Sorik Merapi. Yeah, Sorik Merapi in North Sulawesi, 45 megawatt. And of course, the famous one is Indonesia biodiesel from palm oil. Yeah, we are the first or the largest palm oil production in the world. The second is Malaysia, and we use its palm oil, our palm oil, to become biodiesel. We have program B35, means all our diesel is mixed with palm oil 35%. And maybe next year it become B40, 40%, and then next B50, yeah. But the new president also has program to become 100% use palm oil as diesel oil, yeah. In the future, ITB already involved, the leading actually, to develop the sustainable avionic fuel, yeah, SAF, sustainable avionic fuel. And it used also palm oil as the base oil for the after, yeah, after mean airplane fuel. They already tested in propeller airplane and also in a jet airplane. We already tested with a good result. And because we do that one, many big company already approach ITB to have joint research together, like Boeing, Airbus, and so on, and many other engine manufacturers. Yeah, they are interested in palm oil. But of course, there is some challenges in using palm oil, which I will explain later on if we have time. Yeah, but Bu Mega, please remind me the time, because if you give me the time, I will keep talking one day. Okay, the next one is wave energy. We don't have, yeah, we still none of energy, ocean energy resources. Although we have the longest beach, yeah, in Indonesia, we have 30,000 islands. We have a lot of beach, but there's no energy resources come from the ocean. Yeah, this is our challenge. That's why I encourage you as a young people of Indonesia to involve in developing new and renewable energy. Yeah, this is the fact. So we have solar power. The potential is the largest. Yeah, many people say that Indonesia has good potential for solar power, but we have to very careful, yeah, to be very careful, because although we are in a tropical country, we already only have 2 seasons, wet and dry seasons, but we are very limited dry sky, yeah, dry sky day, maybe less than 100 bright sky day, yeah. Compared to Australia, maybe they have 200, yeah, bright sky. There's no cloud, mean bright sky, there's no cloud, and there's no rain, yeah. 200 day maybe it. The best city that have solar power is Colorado, yeah, Colorado State. They have almost 300 day of clear sky, no wind, yeah, very strong solar. That's why the solar power is developing very well in Colorado State. Yeah, almost every building install rooftop solar power. In Australia also, yeah, but what I heard from the professor from the Colorado University, the maximum solar power that obtained from the rooftop solar power is only 40% of New South Wales. They have rooftop solar power. They said then we have to be careful because it's intermittent. Yeah, in the day where it come, we have to compensate from other resources. This is gigawatt, yeah. Hydro is have the largest resources, but it's only the fifth. The most power that we get. Very expensive and not stable, for example, at this moment. Keeping down, yeah. Maybe in 3 or this is the third largest. So that's why I encourage you as young people of Indonesia to involve in developing renewable energy resources, yeah, at least in the ocean, in the solar. Yeah. Okay. So this is already stated by PLN that they will retire their
Recording in progress.
blow in. Of course, it's also entering the furnace by air, and the other, the easiest one is stoker. Stoker just put the coal in the bed, in the fixed bed. Yeah, we already some already success in CFB and stoker, but it's still fairly short experiment in pulverized coal. Yeah, it's also, yeah, this is the plan of PLN in this year. It should be changed 3%, 6%, and so on, 70%, because this is the easiest one. Yeah, and hopefully in the coming year, almost all the coal power plant will be co-firing with biomass. And this is the potential CO2 reduction. Yeah. Okay, and how about the biomass? Yeah, the biomass, we have a very large area of palm oil. It's about 15 million hectare. Yeah. So the palm fruit bunch look like this. Yeah, it's a small fruit like that. Yeah, the fruit will be taken. Yeah, it will be steamed and then trash. Put it there. Yeah, put it in the trash. We put the fruit and then we press. Yeah, and then they press it. So we have a fiber. This is the anatomy of the fruit. This is the fiber where the oil come from, and this is the shell. Inside the shell there is a kernel. Yeah, this is the best oil that we can get. So usually they separate it. We have palm kernel oil, we have palm kernel shell, we have fiber. Yeah, this is fiber. So when I visited one of the palm oil factory in 2009, there is a huge of waste. Yeah, empty fruit bun, palm fiber, palm kernel shell is very huge. It's left in the open area. Of course, it will emit methane and CO2 and so on. Yeah, the greenhouse gases. But now there's no palm oil waste anymore. Yeah. In Sumatra, some of the company or even has a long-term contract with Japanese company. 30 years, all the waste will be sent to Japan, especially palm kernel shell, PKS. They call it PKS. Yeah. What they do with this, they burn it. Yeah, they burn it to make to replace the coal, and some there will be gasification to produce syngas also for the fuel. Yeah. So have pomade, palm oil milk effluent. Yeah, this is all the liquid waste from the palm oil. It also emit methane, yeah, greenhouse gases. And the remain in the palm oil factory is pomade. All is gone, yeah. Even the palm oil fruit buns, they use it by themselves for their boiler and to generate power, yeah. But the rest is gone imported to other countries. So this is one example of the co-firing coal and biomass, yeah. PLN is just start experiment. So it run maybe 2 or 3 hours, but the BLTU Babelan in Cikarang here already operated continuously, almost 3 years now. 20% of the coal is replaced by the palm kernel shell, yeah. So I got the story from this PLTU, from this coal power plant, that they have difficulty to obtain the palm kernel. Do you know how much the price of the palm kernel shells? It's 1.8 million rupiah per ton compared to 700,000 rupiah per ton of coal. So it's more expensive than coal. Twice more expensive than coal. Yeah. So why they use it? Yeah. Because once they say they have to invest 200 billion rupiah in order put this palm kernel shell into the boiler, yeah, boiler furnace. But the owner is willing to do this. Why is that? Because once they have certification that 20% of the electricity is green, all the industry in Cikarang, especially industry that care about the green product, the green approval, yeah, they buy it. They buy the electricity with higher price. They buy 2,500 rupiah per kilowatt hour compared to the normal price 900 rupiah kilowatt per hour. So the green economy already started. Yeah, it's no problem to buy the palm kernel shell 1.8 million rupiah per ton. It's no problem to invest 200 billion rupiah. They can sell the electricity with premium price. The industry that already bought the electricity also can claim by, yeah, their product is green because using the green electricity, yeah. So the price of the product also premium. They can sell it to the other country that concerned about the green product, yeah. So they are now difficult to get the palm kernel. They start to change into the wood chips. Yeah, they also plan to build the second unit, 100% biomass by wood chips. Yeah, that's why all the people dealing with the biomass in Indonesia start complaining. Yeah, because we don't have any more biomass. All is transported to abroad. Yeah, to other country. It's not only the problem of energy, but also problem of our soil nutrition, yeah, because the biomass can be returned into the earth and produce some nutrition for the plant. But now it's already gone, and maybe in that country, in the imported country, the soil become fertile, yeah. For example, I also heard that many of our coconut pit and coconut fiber is exported to other country. I do not say the country, yeah, but mostly in Asia. They use it for what? They use it for plant. Yeah, they build like a plantation in the desert. Yeah, using our coconut pit and coconut fiber. So from Pangandaran itself, they exported 4 containers a day, yeah, palm, coconut pit, and coconut fiber. There's a lot of story about biomass. Maybe in some other time I will explain this more briefly, more detail. Yeah. So what is our problem with the palm oil-based liquid fuel? We have problem with the biomass. It's already exported. We do not have any biomass resources for fuel anymore. And how about the plan to use B100 in biofuel, yeah, to replace the diesel oil, for example? To achieve the B100, we need another additional 43 million tons or extra 20 million hectare of palm oil. Yeah, because our production is now already almost stagnant. This data is come from the BPDS or the Statistical Bureau of Statistical in Indonesia. Yeah, our production is stagnant of palm oil because there's no more new plantation. Yeah. So how to increase our production? Replanting, yeah, but it's not very useful. The old tree will be destroyed and replaced at the same line with the new tree. Yeah, this is very expensive, and it's not 100% recover the level of the production. Yeah, or maybe use a deserted land like, but it's not too much. Yeah, and another option is open new area of plantation. And the problem is that the Indonesian government already issued the Indonesian Sustained Palm Oil Standard. Yeah. So if you want to make a palm oil plantation, you have to fulfill this agriculture ministry regulation. Yeah, there's a lot of restriction, a lot of standard that we have to fulfill. Yeah, this the main indicator. The first one, environmental indicator, biodiversity. We do not, you don't allow to build the palm oil in a high conservation value area, in high carbon stock forest, in the pit area. There's a lot of restriction. Yeah, you have to consider greenhouse gases. You have to have a plan how to reduce the greenhouse gas emission from the plantation and also from the factory. You have to make some water conservation also. Yeah, and social indicator. Social indication mean there should be no conflict with the surrounding people. You should not use a child as your manpower and so on. Yeah, you have to consider the humanity and so on. That's a lot of restriction. Yeah, this is conservation area, high conservation value area. Yeah, move faster because I know I already spent a lot of time. Yeah, this area that has important level of biodiversity and so on. Yeah, we cannot use this land as a palm oil plantation, and this is what they mean high carbon stock. You can only make a palm plantation in open land or in scrub. Yeah, you cannot do this in here. But the people in Indonesia are very clever. Yeah, they burn this one, and it become open land. They put palm oil plantation in this. Yeah, but that's the bad story. Yeah, we don't. We have to avoid that one. So, what is the uh, impact if we do not increase our palm oil plantation? They will move to other country. Yeah, a big company like Sinarmas, like Musimas, and so on. They already have plantation in Africa, in South Africa, which is similar area like Indonesia, yeah, and has a similar latitude like Indonesia, yeah. Of course, it's okay, yeah, but then maybe in 10 years we have become importer of palm oil, not longer producer but importer. Yeah, there is some uh, our research, we are helping PLN in co-firing biomass. We not running yet. Yeah, we predict that there will biomass. Yeah, if less than 20%, it's okay. They can cool with biomass. Yeah, it's still long research. Biomass 100% biomass power plant in Nusa Penida. Geothermal, please remind me, Bu Mega, if the time is already passed. We are the second biggest of Ali Ashad ya, Pak Ali Ashad data. A new geothermal power plant developed in Indonesia. This is from 2000 to 22. Of course, there's a new plan like Sorik Merapi. Sorik Merapi is Medco invest in there, and also there is a Serula power plant is 100% China company invest in there. And this is the area. Maybe you already know this. This picture is obtained from the internet. Yeah, we have a lot of geothermal potential here. Yeah, this is the area, this volcano area. Yeah, but of course it's expensive. Yeah, to utilize geothermal. Maybe in another time I will tell the story about the geothermal power plant. Yeah, why it's very difficult to develop. First, yeah, because it's remote area. It's in a remote area. It's far away from the demand. Yeah, the demand, electricity demand is normally in here in the city. Yeah, we have to transport the electricity. We have to build the electricity transmission. Yeah, and of course the biggest demand is in Java. Yeah, and the second thing, the second factor that geothermal is less developed is because the well, what we expect from the geothermal well is steam, dry steam. Yeah, it's directly go to the turbine and produce the electricity. But in fact, almost all the geothermal well that come out from Indonesian geothermal well is mostly water, hot water. 60% to 70% of the geofluid comes from the well is water, hot water. So the power that will generate this will be less. But for China company, the hot water is utilized. Also, Sorik Merapi utilize the hot water using what we call organic Rankine cycle, yeah, because the temperature is only less than 200 degrees Celsius. It's not very efficient, yeah, but still we can utilize this hot water to produce the electricity. Yeah. That's what they do in new geothermal power plant, but still very expensive compared to coal. Yeah, and also hydro. We have a lot of hydropower. The problem is similar to the geothermal, which is within the remote area, far from the demand. We need to build electricity transmissions, and the water is not sustained, yeah, because the forest that's surrounding the geothermal, the hydropower is depleted, yeah. It's not conserved, and that's why most of the Indonesian hydropower decrease the power because of the water is keep decreasing, yeah. It's not sustained. That's the other problem that we have to solve in order to make a sustainable hydropower. Yeah. So this is the concept. It's not our concept. It's already proposed by by BRIN and other research institution. Yeah. So in order to increase investment in new and renewable energy resources like geothermal and hydropower, yeah. So one of the solution is to produce ammonia or hydrogen, yeah, because the electric resources come from the green resources, then we call it green ammonia and green hydrogen. The price of this substance is very high, and there is a demand. Yeah, for example, Singapore, Malaysia, they are ready to build power plant with hydrogen or ammonia. We can copy what the project that Laos has done. Yeah, Laos do not have any resources like oil or gas. They cannot make urea fertilizer. They imported from Ukraine and Russia, but because they are now in war, the price is higher, and it's very rare, yeah, to obtain those urea fertilizer from those two countries. That's why the Laos built biggest hydropower ever of the country in Mekong River. They produce the electricity. They use the electricity to produce hydrogen and also ammonia. Yeah, many process now is cheaper. Yeah, in producing hydrogen and ammonia. The ammonia will be used for the fertilizer. Yeah, so that's the concept. Yeah. We do not produce electricity. We do not have to produce. We do not have to build the electricity transmission because it's very expensive. Yeah, we use hydrogen. We use electricity to produce hydrogen or ammonia. It's transported in with pipe or by tanks uh, uh, into the industry that needed the fuel. Yeah. For example, we have to, maybe in the 10 years or 20 years to come, we have a hydrogen vehicle, yeah, using a fuel cell, also a diesel power. In many area in Indonesia, in remote area, we use diesel engine to produce electricity. It could be replaced by fuel cell genset, yeah, in the next future, yeah, maybe in the 20 years or 25. But it's near, yeah, because in the workshop that we have, there's a company called Singaporean company that is called Samcop. They plan to build green hydrogen in Jambi. Yeah, they already approached PLN to sign contract to buy 600 megawatt electricity from Jambi hydropowers. It's not realized yet, but they are pursuing it. The green hydrogen will be transported by pipe to Singapore and to Malaysia, yeah, because Singapore and Malaysia has a plan to build power plant with hydrogen in 2030. Yeah, many industry like Japanese company Mitsubishi Heavy Industry, IHI already produce gas turbine fueled by ammonia. They will be market this device, this engine in 2030. Australia, yeah, recently I visited Australia. Before they plan to build a very big solar power plant in desert, yeah, and then the electricity will goes to Singapore. But now they rethink. They will use the electricity to produce other form of energy storage like hydrogen, ammonia, or battery, something like that. It's much cheaper to transport. Yeah. So this is the green hydrogen market. It's very increasing, very expensive. So this price will encourage investors to build new and renewable energy such as geothermal energy, hydropower, solar power, but not to convert into electricity or to transmit the electricity, but to use, yeah, to produce hydrogen and ammonia. Yeah, this is I got from many paper. Actually, this paper is evaluating many paper. This is show that transporting electricity is much expensive compared to transporting gas, yeah, including hydrogen. Although the hydrogen transportation is still more expensive than oil, but it's cheaper than transporting electricity. So I hope with this concept, many of renewable energy resources like ocean, which is remote area and so on, do not difficult, yeah, they don't have difficult to transfer or to transmit their electricity, not electricity power. It's not in the form of electricity, but in the form of ammonia or hydrogen. And also, this is green hydrogen production from POME. Yeah, we know that what the waste left in the palm oil factory is POME. It also can be converted into hydrogen. Yeah, many waste can be converted into hydrogen. In Australia, we can use solar power to utilize the wastewater, yeah, to produce clean water and hydrogen, yeah, using a solar power. A lot of catalysts developed in there. Yeah, if you're interested, you can study there, and we also pursuing collaboration with University of New South Wales in research the solar power for hydrogen production or for ammonia production. Yeah, one of the great professor there, Professor Martin, he got a lot of patent in solar panel. Yeah, he worked in University of New South Wales. It's very excited to have a collaboration with him. Yeah, but still in the plan. Maybe sometime next year. Okay, so this is just our activity. We have a collaboration with Mitsubishi Heavy Industry in studying and researching the combustion characteristic of green ammonia and green hydrogen. We also helping PLN to inject hydrogen in their diesel power generation, yeah, in Sanggaran in Bali. Last year in 2022, we managed to inject only 3%, less than 3%. Still no effect in the performance. This year, they plan to inject 7%, yeah, but still in the plan. Maybe it will be implemented sometime next year. Yeah. So the last slide from me, this is our concept. Yeah, so we know that the hydropower, the water is not sustained. That's why we have to conserve the forest in the river basin, yeah, to make the water preserve. Yeah, the geothermal also need the sustainable water, because if we utilize the steam and the water is not sustained, it will be dry up. That's why we have to conserve the forests in the surrounding area of the geothermal power plant, in surrounding area of the hydrothermal power plant. Of course, we have to collaborate with the local people, yeah, the local people who guard the forest. What is the benefit for these local people? First, we can use the more realistic one. They can use the biomass from the trees. Yes, the trunk and the branch can be cultivated, yeah, and then they sell it to cement factories. Cement factories now use coal for their kiln, yeah, to burn the limestone, yeah, to burn the limestone to become cement. They use coal. That's why they're very happy if they can use biomass, but dry biomass. Yeah, the moisture content should be less than 40%. So they can sell it here. Yeah, the cement industry increased 9% because of the our new capital city. Yeah, because of the Nusantara, there's a lot of development there that increase our cement demand by 9%. It means that we burn more. Yeah, we burn 9% more coal, we emit 9% more CO2. That's if we can replace with biomass, then we can reduce the CO2 emission. Yeah. So if we conserve the forest and the people get benefit from biomass production and also the carbon credit, for example, then we have sustainable resources for geothermal and hydropower, and we can produce green hydrogen and green ammonia. All this system will totally reduce the CO2 emission. Yeah, the forests and the cement industry or other process industry and the power generation using geothermal and hydropower. Yeah, that's our concept, but it's very big effort. And another important thing that if we want to apply the project, there should be a study in social impact, and it's not only on financial impact, but in social impact. Social impact, environmental impact, yeah, AMDAL in Indonesia, and now it's become popular is gender equality and inclusiveness. Yeah, so we have to involve everybody. It's not only a man, and we have to involve women also. Yeah, some people, especially United Nations institution, believe that woman is better if they're doing with the renewable energy compared to men. That's that's some hypothesis arise. Yeah. So if you want to have a project with the United Nations institution like UNDP, World Bank, UNEP, you have to involve gender equality. You have to consider gender equality. Yeah, because they are very concerned on that. Yeah, if they come to industry, they will ask first how much is female, how much is male. Yeah. Okay. That's all I want to say. Thank you very much. I'm sorry if there's some word that's not uh, in the right place or tidak berkenan gitu ya. Thank you very much for your attention. I'll give back the floor to Bu Mega.
Okay, thank you so much, Prof. Ari, for the insightful presentations. Many informations about the future energy, like solar energy, wind energy, hydro, and geothermal energy. So it is time to hear from all of you. You can type your questions into the chat, and if you like to speak directly, you can raise your hand and we will unmute you. Okay. Okay, there is one questions in comment. Good morning, Prof. Ari. My name is Yusuf Riyadi from Indonesia. I have questions. How can Indonesia increase the adoption of solar and wind energy given the high initial cost and infrastructure limitations? Thank you.
Yeah, so yeah, well, I have to frankly speak that now PLN has a very big role in managing the electricity production in Indonesia. For example, if you want to have a solar rooftop, right? Yeah, you buy by your own money, you have to get permission from PLN. Otherwise, they will fine you 750 million if you don't have permit to install rooftop. Then after you install, if you want to use electricity, even if you want to use by your own house or your own building, you have to get a permission from the PLN. How much that you can use for your own, and for now they will not buy the electricity produced from the rooftop. That's the problem. That's the policy that we have to remove. But this is understandable because PLN is a company and they have to be profit, right? If everybody generated their own electricity from solar cell, they cannot sell their electricity produced. Yeah, but they already have a contract with the private and other coal power plant, for example. if the PLN do not buy the electricity, PLN has to pay the compensation. Yeah, that's why PLN is in a very difficult position in renewable energy. That's why I suggest if you have a solar power plant, do not convert into electricity, but use the electricity to produce hydrogen or ammonia. Yeah, there's a lot of market of green hydrogen and a lot of market of green ammonia. And in the coming years, we can utilize it in many usage like vehicle, yeah, power plant, and so on. So this price is very high, then can cover up the capex, the investment that needed for the solar power plant. But solar cell now is become cheaper, yeah. And we already have a plan, I think, solar panel plan in Semarang in Central Java, yeah. It will be a very prospective, yeah, energy resources, solar power. But again, we have to change the policy, or if the policy remain, then use the electricity from solar panel for other purposes, yeah, like hydrogen production or ammonia production. Okay, that is my answer, Bu Mega.
Okay, thank you for the answer, Prof. Okay, for the next questions. Good morning, Prof. Ari. My name is Habibi from Undip. May I ask you a question? Out of all the possible renewable energy, why is PLTN not a mention? Because nuclear energy has zero carbon dioxide, and unlike solar or wind energy, nuclear can run 24/7, and with today's tech can be very safe. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Once again, this is, I have to frankly speaking, if we want to deal with high technology equipment like nuclear power plant, like airplane and aerospace, yeah, we have to deal with superpowers. Yeah, otherwise, if they're not allowed, it will not realize. Yeah, we have tried to build one PLTN in Gunung Muria, but maybe some of you still not born yet, but it's destroyed, yeah, because people against the nuclear power. Acceptance from the people is still very hard. They will not accept the nuclear power plant everywhere, yeah. That's why, but I think this people is yeah. They don't. It's not just not understand about the importance of the nuclear power plant, but also disagreement from other countries. They are supported the opposing this nuclear power plant. We also have aeroplane industry, but it's not well performed, yeah, because it is protected actually. That's technology like nuclear power plant or aerospace and aeroplane is protected. Yeah, we have to fight to get this technology, like other country that brave enough to face sanction from superpower or something like that. Yeah, but we have research in nuclear power. Indonesia has a collaboration with Tonkorn. Yeah, they provide us with the research lab. It's in Jatinangor. Now it's not started. It's just a basic research, but in the future we hope that we have a molten salt reactor using thorium. Yeah, thorium. We have very plentiful thorium in Indonesia, especially in Sumatra and Bintan. Yeah, and they also plan to build a nuclear power plant sometime in Pulau Bintan. Yeah, using thorium as the fuel. We don't have much uranium. Yeah, we have to import it. Although we have uranium mine in Kalimantan, but it's not much. Yeah, so it's better to buy. So if thorium, we have our own fuel. There's plentiful in Indonesia. That's why we do research with Tonkorn. Tonkorn is American company. Yeah, The other company also come from Russia with similar subject, but it's not happened yet. Yeah, it's already started the research with Thorncon. Yeah, thorium is from thorium. Yeah. Thorncon is company from United States. We do that, but it's not like a solar and so on because the people acceptance of nuclear power plant. Yeah, and we need the strong political will to build the nuclear power plant. Yeah, normally, basically, the government do not brave enough to state to build the nuclear power plant. Yeah. Okay, that's my answer, Bu Mega. Yeah, still mute, Bu
Okay.
Mega.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Ari. Okay, we will move to the next questions. Okay, does anyone want to open the mic? Okay.
Yeah. Okay, that's the one question I think from Muhammad Ilham, yeah, about long-term
Okay.
strategy. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you can read from the document. Document can be downloaded, yeah, from the internet. Long-term strategy of low carbon and climate resilience. It's very normative actually. Yeah, we want to reduce in such area, but it's not implementation document yet. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Bu Mega, you are mute.
Okay. Thank you, Prof. For the next questions will be open mic. Okay. Ferry, do you want to ask questions? You raise hand.
Good morning, Prof. Ari.
Yeah, good morning, Pak Ferry.
My name is Ferry Anjanto from Indonesia. I have a question. What structural and policy does Indonesia face in integration new and renewable energy generated into national energy system?
Can you repeat your question? I cannot catch what is your question.
Okay. What structural and policy challenges does Indonesia face in integrating new and renewable energy generated into its national energy system?
Yeah, that's still a problem, yeah, because the Minister of Energy and Mineral Resources still asking how to enter the new renewable energy into the grid system. That's still problem because most of the new and renewable energy resources like solar power and wind power is intermittent in Indonesia, right? Yeah, sometimes it's high, sometimes it's low. Yeah, but when it's low, who will compensate? Where the electricity come from? It should be planned and should be implemented in the field. Yeah. For example, you have 145 megawatt solar power in Cirata. If it's enter the PLN grid, once it's cloudy, then you lost 145 megawatt. Yeah. Who will compensate this one? Yeah. If there is no compensation, then it will be blackout. Yeah. Because you're already consumed with industry, for example. If it's lost because it's cloudy, then someone has to compensate the electricity. That's the difficult one. Yeah, that's why there's a concept of smart grid, or maybe we need an energy storage like battery. Yeah, we still expensive now, but yeah, the research is keep going on. Yeah, so maybe sometime we have energy storage, or maybe like pump turbine energy storage. The electricity when it's very bright day, electricity will be used to pump water into higher location. Yeah, and then when it goes down, the sun goes down, the water can be used as hydropower, for example. Like that. So we have to think that concept, energy storage concept. Yeah, it's not only battery like electric vehicle, but there's a lot of ways of electricity storage, yeah, chemical storage or chemical looping storage and so on. Yeah, or produce the hydrogen. Yeah, for example, if it's very sunny day, there's supply oversupply electricity. We use it to produce hydrogen. BRN already do that. Yeah, using solar power to produce hydrogen, and then when this come down, when the solar come down, the hydrogen is used for the gas turbine or for the coal power plant turbine, for example. Like that. That's a concept that we have to think, and of course, it should be in collaboration with PLN and the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources. Yeah. Okay, energy storage. That's the key words.
Okay, thank you, Prof.
Yeah.
Ari. We move to the next question. For the next question is, good morning, Prof. Ari. My name is Aulia from Vocational College Undip. I have a question below. How can technological innovations such as energy storage and smart grid solutions improve the efficiency and reliability of renewable energy system in Indonesia?
Yeah, I think I already mentioned it. Well, yeah, for example, renewable energy resources like wind or solar is intermittent. Yeah, but the presence of energy storage technology will make this renewable energy more benefit. Yeah. So we need to make research not only for the paper, of course, but also to be implemented like a very high efficiency battery and very green battery, for example, or any other process like chemical storage or thermal storage or hydrogen storage and fuel cell, yeah, and so on. Yeah, we have to make to do that way, yeah, in order to increase the utilization of renewable energy in Indonesia. Okay, the other question is
Okay,
Afif, yeah, go.
Prof. Ari, Bagas will open mic. Please, Bagas, to unmute the mic.
Good morning, Prof. Ari.
Yeah.
My name is Bagas Afif from TRKP. I have a question for you. What is the possibility of using solar energy generator to electric power in ship? Thank you.
Yeah, I already mentioned that for building, we only the solar power. Yeah, the rooftop is covered with solar power, right? And also with some windows also covered with solar power. That's only enough to fulfill 40% of the electricity demand of the building. For the ship, of course, you can put some solar panel in there, but cannot be power 100%. Now for the technology existing. It only compensates a few percent of the demand or demand of the ships. Yeah, we also not only the ship, we also try to find ways to utilize solar power electricity for the cold storage, for example. Yeah, KKP Indonesia provide cold storage, many cold storage distributed in the remote area, but they forgot that there is no electricity in there, no sustained electricity. Yeah, like in Banda Neira, for example, Banda Neira in Laut Banda, there's a lot of tuna. Yeah, there is no season. Long a year, there's a lot of tuna. You cannot catch it because you cannot preserve it. Yeah, there's no demand. High demand will be in Japan. Japan people very like sushi, right? So we have to provide sushi grade tuna. For that, we have to catch properly, and then we have to preserve it properly. All need electricity. Yeah, we plan to bring those tuna from the fishermen to the Banda Neira, but Banda Neira do not have electricity. Yeah. Not enough electricity for the cold storage, for air blast freezer, and so on. Yeah. So we try to find that one. I talked to Denso and so on. They have small equipment, refrigeration machine, yeah, vapor compression cycle using compressor with DC motor. Yeah, but it's very small. It's enough for Gojek actually. Yeah, it's for the transportation, sending the frozen food and so, but not big enough to use in the cold storage. Okay, yeah, so it's still limited. Yeah, frankly speaking, the solar power with current technology is still very limited power generation. Yeah, maybe in the next future we have a very high efficient solar cell. Yeah, but we don't know yet. Okay, that is my answer. I hope it's answer your question.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Prof.
Okay, thank you Bagas for the questions and for Prof. Ari for the answer. Okay, Prof, for the next questions. The question is from the chairman of the committee, Mr. Lufansha. Okay, can you unmute the mix, sir? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ibu Miss Megarini. First of all, I would like to say thank you very much for Professor Ari that have been presenting the whole materials, which is really interesting because when we follow the renewable energy path, it means we are ready to facing the future. We already discussing about the whole technical and also detailed thing about engineering. But Professor, how about the policies or the Indonesian or a national worldwide policy, or maybe in bilingual Indonesia kebijakan? How is that? Is that already supported with our targets, or maybe you can express your opinion about that? Thank you.
Yeah, in terms of policy, Indonesia is quite good, yeah, but the problem is how to implement. As you may hear from the news that in order to get a new power plant with new renewable energy resources, we need about 200, yeah, more than 200 trillion rupiah in terms of money, yeah. In terms of money, where did it come from? We don't know yet. Yeah, we don't know yet. So why the government is committed to Paris Agreement and producing many documents showing our willingness to reduce the CO2 emission. Yeah, this is this information has come from the SMI. Yeah, SMI is what do you call it? Sustainable something like that. Yeah, it's government company that provide money for the investment. You said that all our power plant in Indonesia, coal power plant, hydropower plant, the money is come from other country. Like it's like a loan. We do not have capability to build our own power plant. Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have money. Yeah, we have money, but we don't allocate it for that power plant. Yeah, in the past, we get loan to build our power plant, almost all our power plant. Now recently we have local investment like hydropower. We can build, yeah, we can design and build hydropower up to 300 megawatt. Of course, the turbine still buy from China or from other countries, but the infrastructure we can design and build. A lot of Indonesia company works in this area, in make investment in hydropower. Yeah, now, but before it all comes from the foreign loan. Nowadays, no country will provide loan as long as you still build the fossil fuel power plant. They will give you loan if you build new and renewable energy. But in order to prepare, yeah, because new and renewable energy is high investment, the electric produced should be higher compared to the coal power plant. Yeah, in order in order this new power plant can compete with coal power plant, you have to kill the coal power plant, right? Because coal power plant is very cheap. We cannot compete. We cannot invest in renewable energy if there is still coal power plant exists. That's why they want to kill this one. So, I myself oppose this idea, yeah, because our people still need cheap electricity to improve their capability, to improve their apa economy, to improve the economy, yeah, to increase the economy. Yeah, that's why I think in the future we still need coal power plant or cheap power plant, whatever it is. Yeah. In another country also same. Yeah, I just come from Australia. I said to one of the professor in university, how is the energy transition energy transition policy in Australia? They said it's a mess. Mean what does it mean? I said, what do you mean? Government do not give a straight policy where they want to go with energy transition. They just let demand and supply and demand mechanism. Yeah, they just let them do it. Yeah, supply and demand depend on the supply and demand. Sometimes we with solar power, but the demand say we don't like solar power something. So the government just let supply and demand balance to in energy transition. Unlike in Indonesia, because Indonesia is very firm to support the renewable energy because they want investment, yeah, new investment. Otherwise, we cannot build by our own power plant. That's the first one. The second one, renewable energy cannot fulfill our electricity demand. So we have to make energy conservation also. Yeah, and renewable energy, of course, is not as powerful as fossil fuel power plant. Yeah, it should be parallel with energy conservation in every aspect. Yeah. And of course, we have to develop carbon capture and carbon storage in order to still using coal power plant, yeah, and fossil fuel power plant in some region probably. Yeah. So that's my answer. Thank you
Okay.
for your question.
Thank you very much, Professor. Professor, I want to ask maybe a last question in a short answer. The last time when the professor from the Jiangsu, Professor Jerry, or we can call it Mr. Jerry, come visit us as a first keynote speakers in the summer course, he told us the Chinese government has targeted uh, net zero carbon or net zero emissions in China will be 2050 or 2060, if I'm not mistaken. So they will be become such a really different country at the 2050 and 2060, as we know that today almost whole transportation in China is already mobilized to change to electric drive or electric transportation. And how about the Indonesia? What do you think? In what year we will be in a zero emission or zero carbon? Thank you.
Yeah, in the document, they say Indonesian government said we will be net zero emission in 2060 or sooner. Yeah, but again, it's depend on the new government whether this policy will be supported or not. Yeah, we have a lot of electric vehicle now, but still the electricity is come from the coal power plant, right? Yeah, we do not use oil. We do not import again Petronas or something like that. But still, the electricity is come from the coal power plant. We have to change the coal power plant in order to become green. Yeah. China, I think is they are ready and they are leading in electric vehicle battery. Yeah, but Japan also lead in hydrogen vehicle. Yeah. For example, Toyota. Tomorrow I receive a guest from Toyota about the fuel cell vehicle. They want to see whether Indonesia can develop. Yeah, so it's depend on the government whether they are favorable in China or favorable in Korea or favorable in Japan. Yeah, that's a political situation actually. Yeah, it's not only technological consideration, but also political. Similar to whether you use a high-speed train from China or high-speed train from Japan. Yeah, it's very very strong political reason. Yeah. Japanese people is very reluctant to use the Chinese who's yeah, but it's just in jokes. I don't want to use the Shinkansen because you know the story. Before, a Japanese company who planned to build that Shinkansen Jakarta Bandung, but uh, in the last part, Chinese is winning the tender. Yeah, that's why they are very very upset. Yeah, Japanese people is very upset on this. It's not just technology. It's, if we do not improve our capability in developing our own technology in renewable and new and renewable energy, then we strongly depend on the other country, and that's the political will be political policy will be uh, dominant, yeah, in decision. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor.
Thank you, Prof. Ari. Actually, I have one question, Prof. You
Okay.
mentioned earlier about the Avonic Fuel and collaborated with Boeing. Can you explain more, Prof?
Yeah, avionic fuel, for example, yeah, we mix actually the normal F-fuel with the biofuel, yeah, from palm oil. We already tested in N290, yeah, and also in some jet, some jet engine airplane, yeah, and of course, many countries interested on the result, yeah. So they are interested to have a collaboration with ITB, not for the supported, but they want the data. That's the first thing that they want to do to know, yeah. Of course, they are not whether they supported this technology or not. It's depend on the one again the political reasons. Yeah. They don't want to depend on Indonesia because Indonesia has plenty palm oil, for example. Yeah, maybe they will change it to another biofuel. Yeah, but the result that we already got, that's they want to know. Yeah, that's including China's country. But maybe you don't also know from your friend in China or in Japan that Indonesia is very sexy now. Many people want to approach Indonesia because they believe that Indonesia will be a strong country within 2045. They believe that one. That's why they have to make a friend to Indonesia. So make a friend to many country and make use of them. They won't give many facility to us, yeah, in order to make a friend with us. So just manfaatkan gitu ya.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Ari. That was a last questions. But before we close the sessions, can you make the closing statement about the transitions to the renewable energy?
Yeah, so as I mentioned before that I invite many young people to involved in development of energy, new and renewable energy. Yeah, so and what else? Yeah, that's all I think. Yeah, make involved in new and renewable energy implementation, making hydrogen, ammonia, and electric vehicle or fuel cell battery. Yeah, research on that to be benefit for the futures, I think.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Ari. Let me conclude these sessions. About the sessions, the transitions of renewable energy is crucial, and we must face it to next year. And the transition is driven by the urgent need to combat climate change, enhance energy security, and promote economy resilience. Key elements of this transition include the development of diverse renewable energy source such as solar, wind, hydro, and geothermal, as well as the implementation of supportive policies and regulatory from government. Thank you for all the participants for your questions and contributions. And I think we can discuss in the next future about the renewable energy. Thank you once again for Prof. Ari. Let's give applause for Prof. Ari. Thank you so much. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you also, Bu Mega, and thank you for you all. Yeah, I wish you have a very fruitful discussion in this summer course. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye. Assalamualaikum.
Okay. Prof. Ari, we will enter the next sessions.
Okay. Yeah, I cannot follow you. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Prof. Ari, we will give you the certificate, Prof. Ari.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay.
Virtual.
Thanks
Virtually,
to
right?
Professor Insinyur Ari Darmawan Pasek PhD with the theme Passing the Energy Transition, and to Ms. Megarini Hersaputri, Bachelor of Engineering, Master of Engineering, who has helped the main material this morning. The next event was the symbolic handover of the speaker certificate to Professor Insinyur Ari Darmawan Pasek PhD. To the committee on duty, we ask for help to display the certificate.
Okay, thank you very
To
much.
the chairman of the committee, Mr. Lutfan Shah Muhammad, Bachelor of Applied Engineering, Master of Engineering, we welcome you.
To Professor Insinyur Ari Darmawan Pasek, PhD, from the committee of the Summer School 2024, we would like to say thank you very much for an high appreciation for the whole materials and the whole thing that you have provided for today. I hope this relation and also this connection will not be ended here today, and I hope everything will be good for the next year. Keep healthy, tetap sehat, Profesor. Semoga kita bisa bertemu lagi di lain waktu.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, for you all. And once again, yeah, I appreciate what you already done today. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks to Mr. Lutfan Shah Muhammad, Bachelor of Applied Engineering, Master of Engineering. For the original file will be sent by the committee at a later date. Arriving at the end of the event, we would like to thank Professor Insinyur Ari Darmawan Pasek, PhD, Head of Energy Conversion Expertise, Faculty of Mechanical and Aerospace Engineering, Bandung Institute of Technology, for useful knowledge. Before we close this event, we remind all participants to able to fill in the attendance link that has been provided in the Zoom meeting chat column. To get a certificate, automation engineering technology students are required to submit a resume to the respective lecture. For tomorrow's session, we will start 8 a.m. with the sampling Zoom. The speaker is Mr. Agus Masud S. Asgari, President Director of the Pertamina Foundation, about green policy and technology in Indonesia. We arrive at the end of the event. We would like to express our deepest gratitude to all participants of the summer course who have participated in this summer course. We apologize if in this series of events there are errors in word and deeds. final word. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Ya, mari izin
Ya.
pamit dulu Bu
Terima
Mega.
kasih
Terima
banyak
kasih.
Prof.
Ya.
Ari, sehat-sehat Prof.
Amin, amin. Sama-sama sehat.
Yes, Prof.
Izin live grup ya Mbak Mega. Terima kasih semuanya.
Ya baik, terima kasih Bu Aryani.
Wes kan yo, oke.